Hey everybody, welcome back to VFX Together. My name is Matt. Today we're taking a look at a new feature in Adobe After Effects CC and how we can use it to integrate some titles into live action like this. All right, so it's a pretty basic effect, and there have been a ton of ways to do this in After Effects for quite a long time. But what I'm going to show you is a brand new way to do this with the latest version of Adobe After Effects 2015 using the face tracker. Now, the reason we might want to use the face tracker in this case is because it makes it really simple to do a title sequence like this where, say, we've got an actor's name and we want to have it follow along with their character on the screen. This kind of title is in style right now. You'll see it in a lot of television shows and things like that. And previously, the way that you would do this is, or at least the most efficient way to do this would have been to either use the point tracker, which is pretty finicky. It's not the best thing to use. Or you would use an external program like Mocha AE, which has come with After Effects CC pretty much since the beginning. In our case, though, I'm going to show you why you might not always want to do that. So here I've got a new comp, and it's just got our clips laid out. And what you're going to notice is this was filmed handheld. It was probably off the back of another motorcycle or something like that. And it's very jerky. So obviously we're going to need to apply some stabilizing to it. We can use the warp stabilizer for that. But the trouble with that is if we do that, we can then that warp stabilizer is not going to carry over into Mocha AE. So we either have to track it in Mocha and then attempt to apply a warp stabilizer to everything at the end, which is going to mess up our titles. Or we can try and do it in After Effects without exporting to Mocha. So that would be the preferred. If we were going to do this with the normal motion tracker, though, you can see normally what the motion tracker does is it looks for points with high contrast. So we can go up here, and this is a pretty good point right here, actually. But you'll notice if I select that and then start tracking forward, it gets confused. Even though this is a really good point, the motion is just too much. You're going to have to really play around with it, fine tune it, change the search box size, change the point size, whatever. It's just not very efficient. You can't rely on the point tracker to get good results. Now, with the new motion tracker, though, or with the new face tracker, which relies on the mask tracker that was added in Adobe After Effects CC 2014, we can get a much more reliable, much more solid face track that we can then use to apply that motion to other things. So let me go ahead and show you how we're going to do that. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and apply our warp stabilizer. Now, in this particular clip, you will notice that the letterboxing is baked in. So first thing we're going to want to do is get rid of that, or else it might mess up our warp stabilizer. So I'm just going to pre-compose this. Control-Shift-C, Command-Shift-C on the Mac. We're going to call this Stabilized 1. And hop in and change the composition settings to crop those letterbox lines out. And so now we've got a comp that is exactly the same size as our footage, which is exactly what we need for the warp stabilizer. So we right click, warp stabilize, and I don't want to completely get rid of the handheld look. I just want to smooth it out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is set the smoothness to 15%, go to stabilize and crop. We don't want to really scale this too much. We just want to add an additional scale to compensate for what we have to crop out, and we're going to change the cropping amount down to 15. So that'll keep a pretty good amount of our original footage. And now you'll see that we have a pretty smooth, still handheld look, but it'll be a lot better for our purposes for a title sequence. So we're going to go ahead and try and apply a face tracker to this. Now the way you do that is you draw a mask around the face and then you select your face tracking and go. But we've applied a warp stabilizer. So if we do this now, what you'll see is that mask is offset. You might think we can just line it back up and run the face tracker and it'll work, but for whatever reason, that still confuses the face tracker. So what we need to do is delete this mask and actually pre-compose this one more time. And we're going to call this face track 1. And now we have a nice flat stabilized comp that we can use to track this guy's face. So we're going to draw an incredibly rough mask, because as soon as we select our face tracker, and we're going to choose the detailed features option, and you'll see why in a moment, as soon as we select that and start tracking forward, After Effects is going to automatically figure out where the borders of this guy's face are and assign the points and smooth out the mask all automatically. You don't have to do any of that manually. So I'm just going to let this run. All right, so that finished. I'm going to go ahead and turn this mask off so we just can see the points. And you can see that we've got a very solid track where the point tracker was not able to do it, and we didn't have to use any external programs, which means that all of our warp stabilization and everything underneath this layer is still in place, which is great. So now what we're going to do, we're going to create a new null object. Press P to bring up the position information. Go down to our face track, twirl down the face tracking points, and pick a spot, or pick a point that we want to track. So we'll just go for this for the nose, and any of these will be fine because it all moves pretty much the same. We're going to go to our null, alt left click on the stopwatch, and then pick whip down to our point on the face tracker. And now as soon as we click away, that point the null object will jump to that point, and you see that is following his face pretty well. And so now anything we parent to that null object will travel right along with it. So let's go ahead and just create some text. Scale it to where we need, and parent it to our null. So now it follows along with our biker and looks pretty cool. And so this is great if you want to be able to use this, like I said, for title sequences, especially for actor titling. And I'm sure you guys can come up with a ton of different ideas for how to use this. Now, one more thing that I did in the example is I actually set this this title behind our biker guy. And so if you want to do that, it's pretty easy. The way I did it is you just click on the original footage layer. I'm going to solo that, and we're just going to draw a mask right here. Go back to our tracker, and I'm just going to do a position track on that mask. Let's go ahead and turn that off so we can see what's going on. And we're just going to track forward. Now the position tracker is not perfect. You'll see it kind of start to get off, so you might need to adjust a little bit here and there. And that looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is create a new solid object. We're going to call this mask 1. And we're going to cut that mask from the footage layer and paste it onto the solid object, and then go ahead and turn that back on. Then we're going to go to our text object, apply a track matte to the alpha inverted, which will take that information from the top. Be sure to unsolo the footage layer. So that'll take that information from the mask layer and apply it to the text. Now you could apply it directly to the text, but because the text is not the full size, it's not the same dimensions as the footage layer. If you do that, it's going to be off. So that's why I like to create a solid the size of the comp. That way we can copy and paste masks directly between layers, and also it leaves the text separate. So if I need to move this around, adjust it, you'll see that the mask stays where it's supposed to in relation to our actor, and we can kind of adjust however we need. So that gives a pretty convincing depth effect. We might want to feather this a little bit. But that gives a little bit more of a dynamic effect to a title, and you can see it's very easy. You don't have to use any third-party plugins or anything like that. It's all possible very quickly right within After Effects. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. If you want to keep up with additional tutorials as I get them uploaded, be sure to subscribe. If you have any requests, be sure to leave them in the comments below. I'm always looking for new ideas for these sorts of videos. So let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.